Let's talk to a driver whose boat had to undergo some other repairs this week.
Well, the last race, Steve David here came back with half a boat. What happened?
Well, I guess the Termans were a little excited that a piston boat was next to him and kind of closed the door in a turn and blew off the back half of the boat.
Not only the back half, but I noticed that you had the whole side of your cockpit was gone. You looked like you were out there riding a surfboard.
Yeah, it disappeared real fast. Once the water cleared and I realized I was still intact, we went ahead and finished the heat and brought it back. I didn't know the back end was blown off till I got to the dock.
Okay, now, what did it take to prepare it for this race?
There was 7 people working full-time 24 hours a day since Madison to get it together. Did a superb job. We went out yesterday, and the boat's as good as it was when it was new.
We'll see how that boat does today in a few moments, but right now let's talk about the next heat. Miss Budweiser, Tommy Deeth driving. Oh boy, Alberto will be in it with George Woods Jr. Also the paddock pools with Jerry Hopp driving. Circus, Johnny Prevost will be in the pink boat. Sutphen Spirit, the U-66, Mike Hansen.
And that's the luck of the draw, as after Heat 1A and 1B, they redraw to see who their competition will be. And there are 3 turbines in it as they come down to start Heat 2A. On the inside, it is Circus, oh boy, Alberto in the lane 2, and Budweiser right in the middle of the pack.
Budweiser already has moved forward, and she has taken over the lead one more time. Tommy Deeth coming out of corner number 2 onto the back stretch is power on as he throws that rooster tail high. Again a challenge from Johnny Prevost in the pink Circus boat. This time he's riding it a little bit tighter. You'll remember he hooked in the last heat as he came out of corner number 2. This time he's power on and straight ahead.
Budweiser hangs it on the hook in corners 3 and 4 on the inside to your right. The pink boat Circus tries to sneak inside, but Tommy Deeth puts it to the pedal and comes down the chute to complete lap number 1. The speed, 132.8.
And here comes Circus on the inside. Once again, Tommy Deeth looks to the left and he sees that boat moving up. He tries to power on. This time Circus is pulling him down the front straight. Deeth goes into the corner, holding the outside. He's got to be very careful about his lanes this time. Gets a little bit light going into corner number 2.
After they come off of corner number 2 and down the back chute. In lane 2, it's still Budweiser by about 3 boat lengths now, as Tommy Deeth puts it down to the pedal to the metal, as they would say, and starts to move away.
Tommy Deeth has great confidence in the boat. He is really playing it strong out there. You can see he's hitting a little bit of porpoising action going into turn number 2 or corner 3 on this course. There's a good close-up look at that canopy of the Miss Budweiser. Tommy Deeth inside of there. This time Circus has dropped back just a little bit more.
I believe Tommy Deeth now has moved over to the lane right on the line and the inside. He had the room to do it, and that puts him in a pretty good position as the second place Circus will have to take some water on or move over to lane 2.
We remind everybody these are qualification heats. They're trying to get enough points to get into the final heat later on today. So really a first or second doesn't matter that much as far as getting into that heat, but they'd like to keep those national high point totals going, so they want to play for that. Here's the oh boy Alberto. This boat again just extremely consistent. He's had good runs all season long, and George Woods stays right with it. This time, though, Sutphen Spirit, back in 3rd place now, has not been the boat challenging. And you remember in the first heat of the day, Sutphen Spirit was right up there with the leaders.
And they've had some repairs, all the boats have this year. They've all been in the shop. They've all had to work extra overtime hours around the clock to keep these boats on the water and in good repair. Whoa, Johnny Prevost gets a little high in his right sponson.
That boat had a tendency to ride high early on. They've got it settled down in the water. That's the first time we've seen it pop quite that high, at least here on Lake Onondaga in Syracuse, New York. No problem at all for the Miss Budweiser or for the oh boy Alberto. Both of those boats are holding in very tight. There's a good shot of Jerry Hopp sitting high in the seat for the paddock pools boat.
The Miss Budweiser, 132.8 lap number 1, 129.078 lap 2, and 123.2 after 3 laps. So he's keeping his speed up there.
As he comes down on the back stretch, Tommy Deeth was telling me that he's hitting the turns at about 180 miles an hour. Remember, the speeds we give you are average speeds for the entire lap. Circus, the pink boat, the driver out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, riding in 2nd place, no longer challenging this boat, the leader, Miss Budweiser.
It's Miss Budweiser, Circus, Sutphen Spirit, oh boy Alberto, and paddock pools in that order. As they come off of corner number 4, I believe he'll come down for the checker flag.
Tom Deeth, who has brought this boat back after putting it over in Evansville, Indiana, had a scary ride upside down and landed literally on the cockpit at about 165 miles an hour, but he came out of it, and here he comes across the finish line, taking the checkered flag. Again, the crew down in the pit area very happy. Tommy Deeth in the Miss Budweiser, second place to the Circus, Johnny Prevost.
Wilbur and Murray Heights, and their computer says 126.2 average speed for the 5 laps for Tommy Deeth and Miss Budweiser.
You can tell that we're getting down to the nitty-gritty now as these speeds go up in these heats. There you see a good shot of the Circus boat, John Prevost. He's second place, and I think happy again. That's 2 seconds on the day for the Circus, 2 firsts on the day for the Miss Budweiser.
That'll get them both in the final, and the third place boat is a Sutphen Spirit with Michael Hansen.
And Michael had a second earlier today with a third. That should also move him up into the final heat, which will be happening later this afternoon.
The water conditions have improved here. The Miss Budweiser, average speed 126.2, and the last time out, when the water was rougher, it was 117.5. So you can see the water conditions and the wind are steadily improving here at Onondaga Lake. As we look at our second place boat, John Prevost in the Circus. As the haze hangs over the city of Syracuse, New York, here in Onondaga Lake, there's our point totals. The Miss Budweiser leads all with 800 points. Now let's go down to the happy pit area of the winning owner.
Well, Bernie, so goes a perfect start to a good day.
Well, it sure is. We've had a perfect week, and setting new course records with the Miss Budweiser, and then running 132 mile an hour laps out there in that 25 mile an hour winds and stuff here on the lake. We're very happy, and good Lord's looking out for us certainly this week, and I think maybe we'll come into victory circle when I think we're past due.
Well, you're looking for it, that's for sure. Now, you look at weather out here like this, you've got to be almost more concerned than the driver is, because he's not fully aware of all the things the boat is looking like out there.
Well, that's true. He took a very high dive here in his first turn on his first lap, and but we have put some things on the boat to correct that, and he works those, operates them manually, and so he can do about whatever he wants to do with the boat, and he's keeping it glued down, and that's where we want him.
High speeds and more excitement coming up on the HFC American Hydroplane Series in just a moment.
Chip, boy, everything seemed to be going real good.
Well, it was going fairly well in qualifying. Now we're having a vibration problem. It seems to be at the high RPM, so I can only run the boat below that vibration. You don't want to risk really hurting something.
Well, certainly not, but what about the cure for it, is there?
Well, first we have to find it. It's like going to the doctor. You got a pain, and it's in your hip or wherever, but he doesn't know exactly what's causing it. And right now we have a pain, and our doctors here can't quite find it just yet.
Now let's look at the inside of hydroplane racing. In a portion of our program we call the Performance Corner. The Performance Corner is brought to you by NGK Batteries, the source for serious power. And our special guest announcer, the Budweiser driver, Tommy Deeth.
This is the cockpit of the Miss Budweiser. As you can see, this is an F-16 fighter canopy that protects the driver. It also has roll bars for a collision type of an accident. I'm strapped in with a 5-point harness, just like IndyCar drivers. This here is the air mask that I breathe from. I breathe compressed air while I'm running the Miss Budweiser. The steering wheel is also easily removable for safety so that I can get out of the boat in a hurry. And we'll go over the gauges right now. This is an airspeed indicator. This particular instrument tells me the RPM of the propeller shaft. This here is the exhaust gas temperature of the turbine engine. This here is the RPM of the compressor and the oil pressure gauge. Up here we have fire switches. In case the boat catches on fire, we can turn the fire system on. It's pretty much a self-contained driver protection cell.
An interesting look inside hydroplane racing, thank you to Tommy Deeth. U3 Risley's will lead the pack in Heat 2B, followed by the U4 Days Inn Travelers, Stephen David driving that one. Jeff presents Mr. Pringles, the U8, Scott Pierce. And, of course, the Miller High Life boat, the U00, Chip Hanauer, the driver.
In the original start of Heat 2B, the Miller High Life with Chip Hanauer, having problems, could not get the boat started. He was sitting in corner number 1, a very dangerous position. So the referees decided that in the interest of safety, with the boats bearing down in that first turn, they would red flag the heat and have to have a restart.
And on that restart, well, the attrition had played a part in it, so we only had 3 boats. Mr. Pringles, which is in lane number 2 as you look at these boats. The Days Inn Traveler, which is off the pace a little bit on the restart, and Risley's, which is the boat on the inside right there. So Risley's held off Mr. Pringles and forced them to stay on the outside as they approached in corner number 1 down there. But once they hit onto the back stretch, it was really no challenge at all for the turbine-powered Mr. Pringles boat. Scott Pierce, driving fine as he has all day long, was able to take it on the back stretch and hold on for his lap count so he could take the win and garner himself 400 points, averaging 115.734 miles per hour. Stephen David was perhaps the talk of the race because Risley's developed some problems, and the Days Inn Traveler, as the checkered flag flew, came in second. So your winner in Heat 2B was Mr. Pringles, Scott Pierce. Second place goes to the Days Inn Traveler.
And the victory for Mr. Pringles ties him with Miss Budweiser going into the final, 800 points each. Let's go down now to the pit area.
Well, Scott, it seems like it's going perfect for you.
Well, so far so good. We have 800 points, which is, you know, the best that you can expect to have at this point. The Bud's running real strong. It's going to be a tough race, but I'm going to go give him everything I have.
I think the biggest concern today has got to be the wind factor out there. It's up and down. It doesn't seem real steady.
Yes, it's bad coming into this corner, but the Pringles boat handles it extremely well, and I think it handles it better than the Bud boat, and hopefully that's going to make up for where they're better than we are, because they have a big advantage coming off the corners. So well, hopefully we'll make a nice boat race out of it.
The HFC American Hydroplane Series continues in Syracuse, New York on Onondaga Lake in just a moment.
Sometimes unlimited hydroplane racing has its light moments. This guy is smiling because he thought he had a fire in the back of the boat while qualifying and testing yesterday.
Yeah, it was a big explosion. Parts blew off into the lake. I think we salvaged most of the parts. We've got them all together today. So it was kind of a wild experience. A lot of noise, a lot of oil, a little bit of smoke and fire and all that stuff.
One of the wild experiences, one of many that happen in unlimited hydroplane racing. Let's change the subject here just a little bit and head up.
Highlight failing to make the finals, driver Chip Hanauer is going to change seats again, like he did in the Gold Cup race. For that story, let's go down to the pits and Dick Crippen.
Mel, once again, we see a driver's change.
Well, it created a dilemma here. We had, great hopes for John and what he was going to do today, and then Chip had his problem. And my vote was originally to leave, John in the boat because he's been doing a great job. He run all day, and he could run much harder than he did, but he wanted to be sure to be here, for the final and to get the job done. We're a team operation. We've got, Fran Muncy owns both boats. And, of course, I had on behalf of, Bill Bennett, our chairman of the board, the final decision. But after evaluating it all, we thought, well, we'll put Chip in the boat because this will help him in his driver points chase.
Tommy Deeth will drive Miss Budweiser in the finals. He has won 2 straight heats here today. George Woods Jr. and Oh Boy Oberto. Jim Harvey, the owner. Steve David in the Days Inn Traveler U4. Scotty Pierce and Mr. Pringles tied with Budweiser at 800 points going into the final. And Miss Circus with the new driver, Chip Hanauer. Mike Hansen will be in the Sutphen Spirit. And that's our final field. As they come around now, we're under the 1-minute gun. Dick Crippen, call them as they come off of corner number 4.
In lane number 1, it's the U31 Circus. Lane 2 is Oh Boy Oberto. Mr. Pringles is in lane 3. Sutphen Spirit in lane 4. Tommy Deeth and Miss Budweiser, lane 5. Now the alternate boat, far to the outside, the U7. Paddock Pools, Jerry Hopp. And here's the start on the final.
As they come down, it's Miss Budweiser on the outside, hitting the starting line first and diving into corner number 1. Lays it on the apex of corners 1 and 2. Shakes it loose and starts to come down. This is for all the money. 5 hard laps. And the prize money here at Syracuse, New York, lays in this final heat.
As we watch Miss Budweiser and Tommy Deeth, the driver, you'll notice that the water conditions have improved considerably for this final heat, so we're looking for some very high speeds. The clocks are running now on lap number 1. Tommy Deeth in corner number 3, handling beautifully out of corner number 4, and he pops it high out of the water, comes right back down flat. That's a good indication that things are under control in that boat.
There has been an inquiry in corner number 1. The referees are conversing now with the chief referee, Mike Noonan. There may be a penalty coming up on Mr. Pringles. They say he might have changed lanes in the first turn of lap number 1.
You look at the leader, Tommy Deeth in the Miss Budweiser. The question marks now on the second place boat, Mr. Pringles, Scott Pierce. Whether or not that penalty will be upheld, we'll know very shortly. Meanwhile, Tommy Deeth is not concerned at all about anybody else in the field. He has clear water in front of him. He is not concerned because he really has it all to himself. This is the boat where the question mark is. Further back in the field, Sutphen Spirit, and Sutphen Spirit gets loose out of the water. Mike Hansen is up and over on his roof. Hansen looked like he just plain lost it in the air.
No warning, Dick Crippen. That boat just took off like an airplane. Luckily, he did not hit the Circus in lane 1. There's the driver. He's out of the cockpit. He came up from the underside, and he's bobbed. You can see his helmet. Looks like he's under his own power. That is good news.
That certainly is, and there was no question about it. There was no infraction on it or anything. He was riding in a clean third place, and all of a sudden the boat just caught a gust of air and got up. Now look at the emergency crews. You can see they were already under power and getting right over to the boat. It's good news. The divers get right in with the driver to check him out, even though the driver says, yeah, hey, listen, I'm okay. Just get me in the boat and go. That is not the word they take. They want to make sure. And you'll notice also, Jim, this is a good indication of how things are going with the rescue crew. They have put that front end down on the boat. Now that is done so if he is in a stretcher, they can move him onto the boat without any problem. Look at the boat. As he caught that gust of air, he goes up, starts turning over sideways, a very slight corkscrew, but as he continues to come around, he comes actually down on the back side of the cockpit, and somehow he got out of that boat. We'll have to see what the extenuating circumstances were as far as the damage to the boat. The driver has been boarded onto the rescue boat now. He is coming in. The initial word we get is that he is okay.
We'll be back and check on the condition of that driver and more unlimited action after this timeout.
Back at Lake Onondaga in Syracuse, New York, here is the boat that went over just moments ago. Mike Hansen was driving this boat. You can see the cockpit. The canopy literally was torn off. Now, we described the accident and said that as the boat turned over and re-entered the water from this airborne trip, it literally ripped the canopy right off of the cockpit. So fortunately, Mike was able to just get right out from underneath the boat and come up in a matter of seconds. But you can see it was an accident that happened free of any interference from any of the other boats. Look at the damage that was done to the Sutphen Spirit. That was a boat that had been towed all the way to Florida and then brought back up. But now we are also learning we have had a boat disqualified. The Mr. Pringles is disqualified. That will allow the Miller High Life back in. Chip Hanauer will drive the Miller High Life, and Johnny Prevost is back into the seat of the Circus, which is also in this heat. So we have the driver changed again. Miller High Life will be driven by Chip Hanauer, and the original driver of Circus is back in his own boat, Johnny Prevost. You see him right there from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as he gets ready to go. So the Miller boat is in as you look at the Budweiser, now getting ready to run, and also the Days Inn moves up as an alternate boat. Days Inn traveler, Stephen David.
And Stephen David is lane 1, but he'll hang back as Chip Hanauer takes the Miller High Life over to lane 1. Circus John Prevost in the next lane, followed by Oh Boy Alberta with George Woods. Then comes the U7, which is the Paddock Pools of Jerry Hopp. He's in the race. And the Miss Budweiser with Tommy Deeth on the outside as they come down for the restart of the final heat and all the money. Look at those rooster tails fly.
Better than 180 miles an hour into the first corner. It is no longer, as we said earlier, a case of getting there first and leading the train. It's competition all the way around the course. Miss Budweiser, Tommy Deeth, has taken the lead, but he has got challenges in his rooster tail. He's got to be very alert, watching the rest of the field on the inside. It is the Circus again, riding in second place. Now remember, earlier in the day, Circus was able to come up and challenge the Miss Budweiser several times through. But at the moment, Tommy Deeth is leading as he comes down to complete lap number 1 in the Miss Budweiser, and he's got a good ride going.
And Circus on the inside slides around. Checkpoint number 4 coming down to complete lap number 1. There comes Circus on, just about to pull abreast of the Budweiser. 133.6 for Miss Budweiser. 130.5 for the second place Circus.
Less than 3 miles an hour difference between those two boats, and it has been Circus closing as they finished up lap number 1. Johnny Prevost has got the inside line. He's running a little lesser course. Here's your third place boat, the U2, Oh Boy Alberto. Again, we have said consistency is the story of this boat, and that is the story for the final heat this far.
And now Budweiser moves out to about a 14-boat length lead, and the Miller High Life comes up now to challenge for second and give chase to Tommy Deeth.
Miller High Life with Chip Hanauer back in the seat of that boat. There's your leader, the Miss Budweiser, Bernie Little's boat out of Lakeland, Florida. That boat has really had an excellent day out here. 800 points coming into this final heat. You can't do any better. There's Johnny Prevost still holding on to second, but you could see Miller was just creeping up on the inside of him. So Chip Hanauer is going to challenge Johnny Prevost for second place.
130.4 mile an hour for the Miss Budweiser on lap 2 as he shakes it loose off of corner number 2 down the back chute.
These boats averaging over 5,000 pounds each. The thrust of those big turbine engines forcing them through the water. They are literally skimming across the top. As you watch the Budweiser as she goes into the turn, watch just on this side of the driver to see that extra rooster tail. There it is as the skid fin kicks in to the driver's left-hand side. Miller now moving up in the field, has passed Circus. Chip Hanauer in the Miller High Life boat is now going to try to challenge for the lead.
I believe he's got something wrong with his right up fin. I don't see, let's take a look. It's falling apart. He's not got the stabilization he thinks so on the back end. He's hanging loose there. His boat is starting to come apart at the rear end. Meanwhile, your third place boat, Circus, John Prevost.
Boy, that is a dangerous situation for the Miller High Life boat right now, but an experienced driver like Chip Hanauer probably is sensing at this point that something is wrong with his boat. He may not be able to see the back end of the boat in his rear view mirrors to know for sure what's wrong. There you can see he is not showing any concern at this point, but you can see some of the damage starting to occur on the right side as you look at the screen, the far side. Watch that stabilizer wing on the back. Chip Hanauer in the Miller High Life boat in second place. Look at the skid fin as it grabs hold of the water and he hangs it on the hook.
And in second place, he is 9 miles an hour faster than the Budweiser's lap in first place, so he's starting to close the gap.
Chip Hanauer has had a wild and woolly day. He started out driving in this heat in the Circus, but after the Sutphen Spirit went over, they could then move the Miller High Life up into the actual starting field, so he went back into the seat. He is now challenging his nemesis, Tommy Deeth, in the Miss Budweiser. This is a rivalry that trails this circuit everywhere these boats run.
Tommy Deeth picked up the gauntlet when the driver, Jim Cropfell, was hurt in the first race of the year in Miami. And he's doing a whale of a job here today as he looks for his first win in many years.
Tommy Deeth driving to Miss Budweiser. The boat you see right there, the Miller High Life, Chip Hanauer, actually going faster than the lead boat, but he was back in the pack at the start. He was in third position, came up, beat out Circus for second, and now is trying to catch the leader, but time is running out. The clock is playing against the second place boat. Here comes your checkered flag. That is all the time that Chip Hanauer will get. Tommy Deeth will take the win in the Miss Budweiser. What a great story to be told. This boat just a couple of weeks ago was on its roof in Evansville, Indiana. They brought it back a week later in Madison. They have it back again, and it is now a winner. So Miss Budweiser takes the win here in Syracuse, New York, second place, and what an effort by Chip Hanauer driving the Miller High Life boat.
And the first place boat is the Miss Budweiser, a winner for the first time this year. And we'll be back with the winning driver after this timeout. The lake, Jim Hendrick, along with Dick Crippen, and race number 5 is now history. And the waters have calmed down, the sun is out. It's been a good ending to a pretty good racing day. Miss Budweiser wins their first race of 1988 with a perfect 1,200 points. Let's go down to the pits and Dick Crippen. Dick?
This is one happy-looking group here.
Absolutely. But this one's for Anthony Cotter in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Bernie, well, it's been a while in coming.
It has, and we've had everything happen that could happen, and Jim Cropfeld is just on the phone, and he is so happy for Tom and all of us, and needless to tell you, the Miss Budweiser earned it all the way.
Well, Tommy, you had to kind of push it out there for the first couple of laps. You had some competition.
Oh, absolutely. But the Miss Budweiser responded to every command, and the crew really did a great job setting the boat up for me. It's a victory for Thumper, Miss Budweiser. That's our rabbit, Thumper. She did it today.